Hey guys, I'm back and I have a new little video series I'm going to create here for you all, showing you step by step how I'm building my next light straw clay tiny house. So I finished the shed. That was kind of the prototype. That was a light straw clay building as well, and I still need to give you a little video tour of that. It's pretty much 99% complete. Just needs another layer of exterior plaster and then it's totally finished. But I'm going to start on the straw clay tiny house because I really need to get that up before it gets too cold for winter time. And I'm going to take the tent down once that's done and then transition into the new space. So the very first thing you want to do when doing layout for a structure is to set up what are called batter boards. So you want to have 2 batter boards for every corner of your building. So in this case it's a small rectangular building, so I have 8 batter boards total, 2 in each corner. So the batter boards are really helpful in letting you really make fine micro adjustments to your strings without having to put a stake in the ground and then take the stake out and move it over to adjust. You just move your strings along the board where needed. So it really makes it a lot easier to lay out your site, where your building is going to go, and really get precision with all the layout. So the batter boards are really simple to make and to put up. All you really need is a piece of wood and then 2 stakes to make a batter board. So the batter boards need to go in approximately the right area outside of your building space. So for example, my actual building foundation, the corner is going to be right here. So I want my batter boards out some ways from where the building is actually going to be. As you can see, these are pretty far out because you don't want them obviously to get in the way of what you're building. So once you put your batter boards in all around, approximately in the right location, level off all the tops, make sure they're level, and then make sure all of them are level with each other. And the best way to do that is to use a laser level. Just set one point where you want everything to be based off of, and then base all the rest of your boards off of that first batter board. So batter boards are great, easy to make, really easy to set up, and they'll save you a lot of time and hassle. So this is the first batter board I set up here with the string, and comes to the point here. This is going to be the height of my foundation. So the site here gradually slopes downwards that way. So over here you'll see the foundation is going to stick up more out of the ground. This will be a 6-inch concrete slab foundation. So here you can see there's a lot more space underneath that string than over here in this corner. But I used this batter board here and I set the laser level on that, and then I based all the other heights of the other batter boards off of that one. So all these batter boards are at the same level. And you want to try to get these boards as accurately level as possible, and then level themselves by putting a level on top of here, making sure they're not crooked. And then use your tape measures, measure out your strings where they need to go. I even used a compass to make sure my strings were pointed north-south this way, east-west going this way. And it was really easy with these batter board setup, and I could just make micro adjustments way easier than doing something like having to move a stake around. And then once I knew where all my strings were accurately and I wanted them to be permanent there, I stuck a screw in the batter board at the point where that string should fall, just in case if the strings ever get moved. That way I have a reference to know where the strings belong. So the first task I have now with starting this foundation is to dig out within the center of the strings. And I want to dig down about 12 inches and level it off. What I'm going to do is lay down about 6 inches of compacted gravel on the base, and then the concrete slab will go on top of that. So the gravel is going to act as a water barrier, so if any water gets underneath the foundation, it'll drain through the gravel and not be able to get up and into the concrete foundation. On top of the gravel, there's also going to be a plastic vapor barrier. So the gravel and the vapor barrier are going to prevent water from getting into the actual concrete slab. So I'm going to get started on digging. This will probably take me a while. And then after that, I'm going to start forming up for the concrete slab, putting the gravel, the plastic, and then the rebar. So I got the digging done, and it took me about a day and a half to get that dug out, about 12 inches down. Now I'm going to start filling it in up with about 4 to 5 inches of gravel. So I just got all the gravel put in. It took me most of the day. Not easy to do by hand. So if you're going to do larger than a tiny house, this is only 120 square feet, but digging this and filling this in with the gravel by hand, it's a lot of work. If you're doing anything bigger, I'd recommend getting some machinery. So the next step, now that I have the gravel in, I actually need to compress it, because you don't want to have that gravel settle over time and then your foundation shift. So the hand method is to use one of these tampers, and if you're lucky, you'll compress the gravel maybe an inch, but it mostly just flattens it out. So I'm going to get a hold of a plate compressor, and it tamps and vibrates the gravel at the same time, and that'll do the best job, and it'll save me a lot of time. So that's what I'm going to do next. Now that I have the gravel compacted and the gravel pad is all complete, I'm beginning to set up the form boards for the concrete pad. So I cut the sides to the lengths I need, and measuring everything off, making sure it's all aligned. One of the most important measurements you can make is the diagonal. I think it's called the hypotenuse. It's the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So that diagonal is c squared. So this would be a, b, and that's variable c. So I just pull that diagonal both corners, making sure it's accurate, because sometimes you can have your side lengths the right lengths, but your whole form box or rectangle can be kind of crooked. So that's why it's important to check the diagonal, make sure you got that right. And I've also used my compass to make sure that I have everything aligned north to south, east to west, just in this case, whatever you want to do. So I'm making sure it's pinned with these metal stakes, and the next thing I got to do is level the form. So I'm going to use this corner here as my base point, and I'm going to level the other 3 corners off of this corner using the laser level. Alright, so now the entire form box is leveled. So for example, you'll see this back corner over here is raised up off the ground a little, but this point is level with the point in that corner now. So all 4 corners are level with each other now. And the next thing I'm going to do is put in some more stakes, more in the middle, because I don't want these to bow out. There's going to be pressure against these form boards when the concrete gets poured. I don't want these to bow out, so I'm going to put more stakes along the sides here. And always push your stakes down below the form board, because when you use the screed board, you're going to screed along the top of your form to level out the concrete, and you don't want your screed board running into these stakes along the sides. So always make sure that they're knocked down below the form boards. So here's a good little trick you can set up to make sure your form boards don't bow out when you're pouring concrete. Put a string line either on the inside edge, outside edge, or the very middle of your form boards. I like the outside edge because you're less likely to get your screed board caught up on these screws. But put your string lines along the edges of your forms, going down the entire length, so that now you can see visually if your form boards are going to bow out. If you see this when you're pouring concrete, that's not good, because then your whole foundation is going to be bowed. So if you did have that happen, for example, when you had concrete in here, you could bolster that up with some more stakes or some more reinforcement. But obviously it's better to have that set up before you pour. This is kind of like a good extra precaution to see while you have the concrete in, to make sure that these boards aren't bowing out. Hey guys, it's the next day, and as you can see, I put down the plastic vapor barrier which goes on top of compacted gravel. Now this is a 6mm poly plastic. It's best to use a 10 mil or even a 15 mil if you can find those. I went to Home Depot and Lowe's this morning. I couldn't find anything past 6 mil. 6mm is usually the very base level thickness to meet code requirement. Apparently these do break down over the years, but it's gonna serve you well at least for probably a decade. I don't know. So if you can find the thicker stuff, 10 to 15 mil, that's best. But if you can only find 6 mil, that's adequate. To be honest, most people only use 6 mil for foundations, so in most cases you'll be fine. And then apart from that, I put up more bolsters around the foundation, the forms, just to keep them in check, make sure they don't bow out in the middle any. So all my string lines are nicely lined up, and I know everything is formed up. Now all I gotta do is put the rebar in here, and I think we'll pretty much be ready for concrete. So we can kind of get that in sync together. Make sure it's running along the top of the form. I hope you guys enjoyed this first video on the process of me building my straw clay tiny house. I think the only part you didn't see in that last section where we poured the concrete was the finishing work, and that's where you use the steel trowels. So I just buffed it up, smoothed it out with a steel trowel 2 or 3 times, after we poured the concrete and screeded it and mag floated it. Then you just come back in about 20-30 minutes and do your steel trowel finish work. So the foundation, the pad is done. The next step is to do the brick stem wall, and the brick stem wall is going to go around the perimeter where the walls will be, probably up about a foot, and then on top of the stem wall is going to go the framing. So I'll lead you through the stem wall creation in the next video, and then we'll go to the next step from there. Thanks for watching.